of the way that we use technology, and sometimes like in Zoom we haven't been taking advantage of the spotlight feature, so thanks for reminding us.
Yeah, I was just making fun because it sounds silly for me to like, hey, would you spotlight us, so like everyone can see our two beautiful faces, me and Wayne. All right, sick. So we will speak from a blog post that our group put together. Unfortunately, we're not able to be joined by our other teammates. Jerry is dealing with family matters, and I think Stephanie's unable to join for one reason or another. And so it'll just be Wayne and I talking to our piece about LEED, which is the LEED sort of green building credit rating system, credit-based rating system that I know that we're all familiar with in the sort of construction industry. But
quick interruption, Connor and Wayne, can you guys introduce yourselves?
Oh, sure.
I know, again, it's just because it's nice to be reminded.
Sure. The reason we came to this is, you know, I'm a architectural designer at HMFH Architects, and we do a lot of LEED work. And Wayne, why don't you?
Yeah, I'm an assistant project manager at Lee Kennedy over in Massachusetts, and hopefully everyone can relate to this LEED topic and frustrations with it.
Yeah, there's definitely some frustrations. We came to this in sort of a organic way. In retrospect, maybe we should have chosen mentoring, but we were having conversations about directions we could go, and there was a lot of energy around the LEED rating system, and particularly like the BD+C, or building design and construction rating system, that we use sort of most frequently. Really, this was an opportunity to think critically about how much energy and attention is spent on the delivery of LEED certified projects, and how the industry can enhance the value of the rating system in the eyes of the project stakeholders, including contractors, architects, engineers, but also owners, material suppliers, and users. So to get us started, let's just ask ourselves the question, you know, we wanted, by putting on a sort of Mythbusters cap, can we confront the question, is LEED BD+C really only, in a lot of people's eyes, a paper pushing exercise with a fee? Or if there are shortcomings identified, what are those solutions? And we had some conversations amongst ourselves, but other industry professionals in our workplaces, and we identified a few contributing factors to the reasons why LEED might have this burdensome reputation that it carries across the industry. Some can be attributed to lingering effect of previous issues that have since been addressed in the LEED certification system. This would be your sort of, you know, bicycle rack outside the front door examples that people still name when expressing frustration with how cheap the process can feel sometimes, or how sort of how maybe like it just feels empty, and like, you know, there's these sort of low-hanging fruits that can be easily taken advantage of just to get a plaque on your front door. And we identified a key couple ways that we tried to move past those sort of those lingering old issues that have been sort of fixed in the newer LEED rating systems, like that bike rack is now no longer just an easy credit, but we try to sort of identify a key couple ways that that it still feels somewhat restrictive or time intensive, and hopefully we can highlight a couple ways to improve the the system. So for that, I'll hand it over to Wayne, and then I'll end on the sort of second half.
Thank you for that, Connor. So a few of the things that we touched on is just how, like Connor introduced, how time consuming this whole thing is. If no one's really familiar with the process, we have these specific spreadsheets and LEED calculators that we need to populate. To do that, we need to go to, I guess from my perspective, coming from the construction manager side, we go to our subcontractors. The subcontractors then need to go to the vendors to get these LEED data sheets to pass it on to us. Now, once we get those sheets, we now have to extract specific information to now put it into another LEED sheet or calculator. And then on top of that, it's some of these pieces of documentations have expiration dates on them. So now it's the time to get all of this information. You got to hunt for specific pieces of information and maintain it. It just takes so long, and there's got to be an easier way. So one of the things that we kind of brainstormed here is something similar to like a nutrition fact that you see on the back of any one of your food items. And what that is essentially a standardized sheet or package that we can get from the manufacturer, which once you become familiar with it, at least the information is in the same spot from product to product. So you don't have to go thumbing through the whole package to try to find this information. Another piece of information that one of our group members brought up was trying to implement this. You do so much work to get to this LEED point, get the plaque on the door. Well, what happens once the project is over? Now this LEED information just kind of goes out the wayside. Yeah, Connor.
I'll just jump in. I think that is Jerry's part, and since I think his and mine sort of go together. So sorry.
Yeah, go for it.
We're doing a little bit of this on the fly because the two other team members. But yeah, so
no worries.
I'll take over that part. But Wayne, I'm curious to hear more about the way that this nutrition fact label could be given a even like designation of certified silver, gold, or platinum for different material categories based on like that sort of fall in line with like the LEED rating system, so that when you're like looking at this quick sheet of does it meet the criteria needed for a specific credit point, like which to what amount does it
well, hopefully some of the owners could be put on some of the manufacturers to go through this process on the front end, where they can get together with the USGBC and create that rating to say, okay, well, this material falls into the silver, to the gold, to the platinum. That way, when we approach the manufacturers for this information, we can state to them, okay, well, this is what our goal is. This is the type of certification we're looking for. Provide us the information that aligns with that certification, which then the process just kind of flows right through. And it becomes less about the owner being able to purchase a point later, if need be. You become more invested in.
Right. I think incentivizing manufacturers to accommodate the sort of like LEED rating scale is really a pushback to get them thinking more about the manufacturing process, but also it helps streamline projects and focus the energy of delivering green buildings on the documentation of like green buildings to more maybe pressing issues. creating overall a more sustainable project. So that was the first way, is the sort of time that it takes for the assembly of all this sort of documentation and data required for different categories and LEED credits. But then the next piece, why LEED might feel burdensome and maybe an empty pursuit sometimes, and it is maybe because the effort that is taken forward through design and construction to deliver a green project to the owner might not be sustained after project completion. And there's a lot of energy around the idea that these LEED efforts continue, or these sort of green strategies continue after the project is opened. There's a lot of LEED credits and categories that have to do with that are on offer for tasks or efforts like commissioning, where an engineer would commission the building systems to different, for different amounts, and visit for deeper into a project, and you get more points if that happens. But they're not necessarily required. And the impact of that is significant, because if you've gone through the effort to design and deliver a project that is supposed to perform to specific sort of points or specific criteria, then you would want to see that carried through and ensure that everything is working properly. But if that's only sort of a optional task, which some owners may or may not take up, then you run the risk of all this work being done to be maintained improperly, or operated improperly, or either due to commissioning not being done, training not being in place, or some requirement that operations and maintenance also be LEED certified. So with that, the environmental and cost savings for running the building may not be realized in some situations, and that can lead to a feeling of well, why are we doing this if we run through a circuitous design process where we're having to remodel and rerun the data and continue to track what materials are present or are sourced properly, or what how efficiently the building systems operate, and then that isn't carried through into operations and maintenance. That can really feel like we're just trying to get this plaque on the wall and then move on and be done with it, and there should be a shift in its focus to achieve this sort of total building sustainability goal, where they stay sustainable through their lifetime. And those, with what Wayne suggested in this other piece, hopefully this can provide a couple ways that people can think about pushing either project stakeholders, owners, material reps, others in their office, to think maybe more critically about how the LEED certification process is approached in the office. But I think what this is all based on, in conclusion, is the idea that you need these different players to be bought into the idea that that LEED is successful and that measuring these pieces of information, this data, these metrics is important in shifting the market towards more sustainable future, and towards creating demand around and different things. And that LEED has succeeded in a lot of ways, but you know, this feeling of it being a waste of time really leans to, or gives you the impression that there's not total buy-in into the system, and that you know, it maybe just be seen as like a way to achieve a check on a box or something similar, and to really make the most of what LEED is meant to be. There really needs to be true buy-in from owner, contractor, architect, to collaborate around these efforts to make sure that you know, that this really is not a waste of time for everyone, and that these efforts are actually being driven through, and that sustainable goals are carried through by everyone. And you know, across project teams and an industry at large, there needs to be like more beyond just the financial incentives that await on the other side of delivering green projects, whether that be new contracts or you know, tax incentives, etc. So that's our pitch.
So who is your pitch for? Is it for the people who run LEED? What do you have a pitch for your firms, your companies, about what you want your companies to do? But first, can you answer my question? Who is your pitch directed at?
I think it's, you know, the title of this is kind of cute. It's called bLEEDing Time, with like LEED in like parentheses. Working title. But it's hopefully this piece would garner attention from people who are frustrated with LEED, and sort of giving sort of credit to that feeling, and sort of acknowledging that there is some frustration to it. And so that could be contractors, subcontractors, engineers, architects, owners. But I mostly, I think industry professionals who are feeling maybe burnt out by it, and maybe a foot in the door of trying to find ways to the future. But you know, these are not complex ideas, and I think there's a lot of ways to talk about these with other professionals, and in different forums, like professional forums, the BSA, for example, etc. But
to expand on that, Connor, I would like to see, you know, LEED kind of USGBC specifically kind of get a hold of it too, as they kind of have the power. I don't want to say power, but they have the ability to persuade some of the manufacturers and the owners to implement some of these programs that we're pitching.
Yeah. I think it's always important for the rating agencies in particular to hear the concerns and to see potential ways forward, just as a reminder to them that we're all looking for more than what's being offered on tap at the moment.
Right.